Hello viewers, I am Dr. Ankit Srivastava, Assistant Professor of Law at RGNUL Punjab. The topic of our today's discussion relates to corporate law, and we'll be talking about the economic analysis of corporate law today. So let's introduce the topic. The economic analysis of corporate law utilizes the principles and methodologies of microeconomics to examine the legal framework, regulations, and procedures that govern the establishment and functioning of business corporations. This analysis primarily focuses on the rights and responsibilities of directors, officers, shareholders, and creditors. The existing body of research mostly concentrates on publicly traded corporations. However, the analytical framework may also be used for the less integrate scenarios of closed corporations and limited liability firms, as well as the more integrate scenarios of corporate groupings. Corporations are the predominant form of organization for nearly all major global economic operations. Although there are other legal forms that company organizers might choose, the fact that the corporation's form is dominant implies that it provides them with some benefit in comparison. The fundamental legal attributes of corporations, including legal personality, limited liability, transferable shares, delegated management under a board structure, and investor ownership, are essential in effectively minimizing the expenses associated with the organization of productive and commercial activities. The economic study of corporate law is to evaluate the characteristics and sources of these comparative advantages. Another approach is to evaluate the expenses and advantages of particular current or suggested laws in company law. Another approach is to elucidate the economic factors that influence the development of company law throughout time and across different regions. When Henry Maine advocated a study program to investigate these concerns, there were few resources and methods available for the task. Since the early 1970s, there have been significant developments in the field of company theory, financial economics, regulation economics, and other areas of applied microeconomics. These advancements have provided the necessary instruments for further research and analysis. The perspective of the firm as a contractual nexus holds significant importance in the economic analysis of corporate law. Now, let's talk about the core concepts and theories. The first one is agency theory. Agency theory investigates the correlation between the shareholders and managers. The text examines the possible conflicts of interest that occur as a result of the division between ownership and control. Methods including performance-based remuneration, independent boards, and shareholder activism are used to ensure that managerial motivations are in line with the interests of shareholders. Agency theory refers to the interactions between principals such as shareholders and agents such as corporate leaders and managers. The shareholders who serve as the proprietors or principals of the firm are known to engage the agents to execute duties. Directors or managers act as agent for shareholders and are granted authority by principals to oversee the operations of the organization. As per the agency hypothesis, shareholders anticipate that agents will behave and make decisions in the principal's best interest. However, it is possible that the agent may not consistently prioritize the principal's best interest. Adam Smith recognized this issue in the 18th century, and Jensen and Meckling provided the initial comprehensive explanation of agency theory in 1976. The second theory is transaction cost economics. Transaction cost economics highlights the significance of reducing transaction costs in order to attain efficient results. Corporate law is essential in minimizing transaction costs through the establishment of legal structures for contracts, property rights, and the settlement of disputes. Corporate law enhances economic growth and development by promoting efficient transactions. Transaction cost economics refers to different ways of organizing transactions such as markets, hybrids, enterprises, and bureaus with the goal of minimizing transaction costs. This concept was introduced by Williamson in 1979. According to transaction cost theory, the most effective organizational structure is one that maximizes economic efficiency by minimizing the expenses associated with exchanging goods or services. According to the hypothesis, every transaction type incurs coordination costs associated with monitoring, regulating, and managing the transactions. According to Williamson, transaction costs encompass the expenses associated with operating enterprises within the economic system. He has contended that these expenses should be differentiated from the cost of producing goods and that a decision maker might opt for either a firm structure or sourcing from the market by comparing transaction cost with internal production costs. Therefore, the cost is the main factor that determines such a selection. The third theory is the public choice theory. Public choice theory examines the impact of political processes on the development of laws and regulations. It underscores the possibility of regulatory capture as a special interest groups exert influence over policies in order to further their own interests to the detriment of the general public. Comprehending the political economics of corporation law is crucial for assessing the efficacy of regulations. Public choice theory is an economic framework that uses market ideas to analyze political behavior. It posits that individuals, regardless of whether they are voters, legislators, or bureaucrats, are largely driven by self-interest when making decisions in the political realm. This is in opposition to conventional perspective of government as a philanthropic entity that serves the welfare of the general population. The core of public choice theory revolves around the notion of government failure, which posits that government involvement frequently results in unanticipated and wasteful consequences. This can be attributed to several causes, including voter apathy, the sway of special interest groups, and the self-serving conduct of politicians and bureaucrats. The idea emphasizes the need to comprehend the motivations encountered by political actors. Politicians may prioritize measures that favor their supporters or campaign sponsors above the general public. Bureaucrats, driven by a desire for greater funding and authority, may establish regulations that prioritize the interests of their agency rather than the welfare of the population they are intended to assist. Public choice theory has direct consequences for the formulation of policies and the functioning of the governance. The statement implies that implementing reforms that restrict government authority, enhance openness, and include market-oriented methods can enhance the efficiency and efficacy of public decision making. Although public choice theory has exerted significant influence, it has not escaped criticism. Some contend that it too simplifies integrate political circumstances and underestimates the significance of altruism and public service in governance. However, it has yielded vital insights into the functioning of government and is a topic of continuous research and discussion. The fourth is law in economics. Economic analysis is a prominent theoretical framework used to research law. In essence, economics is a field that aims to comprehend the process of decision making and choosing, particularly when faced with uncertainty and numerous practical limitations. The field of economic analysis of law examines the impact of legal laws and regulations on the actions of individuals and businesses, the distribution of risk among persons, and the allocation of resources in society. Now let's talk about the applications of economic analysis in corporate law. The first is corporate governance. Corporate governance has been greatly shaped by economic study. By utilizing economic concepts to analyze the dynamic between shareholders and management, it offers useful perspective on creating efficient governance systems. Agency theory is a fundamental notion in this particular setting. The concept suggests that shareholders entrust management with the authority to make decisions. Nevertheless, as a result of the division between ownership and control, managers have the ability to prioritize their own interests, possibly to the detriment of shareholders. In order to reconcile conflicting interests, economic analysis proposes different mechanisms. The first one being performance-based compensation. Linking managerial remuneration to company performance incentivizes managers to maximize shareholder value. The second is independent boards. Independent directors, free from management influence, can oversee managerial actions and protect shareholder interests. The third is shareholder activism. Empowered shareholders can exert pressure on management to improve performance and accountability. An economic study also highlights the significance of business governance in reducing knowledge asymmetry. Through the implementation of transparent disclosure requirements, organizations are able to minimize the discrepancies in information between management and investors, therefore promoting confidence and facilitating effective allocation of resources. Furthermore, economic analysis aids in assessing the effectiveness of various corporate governance systems. Through the process of analyzing the performance of organizations operating under different governance systems, researchers are able to discern the most effective method and suggest necessary improvements. Ultimately, economic analysis provides a robust foundation for comprehending the intricacies of corporate governance. By prioritizing incentives, knowledge, and efficiency, this approach offers useful insights for creating governance systems that enhance the maximization of shareholder value and overall business performance. The second is securities regulation. Now, the creation and evolution of securities regulation have been greatly affected by economic research. Regulators and policymakers strive to establish a just, effective, and open market by utilizing economic concepts in the intricate realm of capital markets. Information asymmetry is a fundamental principle. Investors can have access to less information compared to business insiders, resulting in an imbalanced competitive environment. Securities rules demand disclosure to ensure fairness in the market. Economic analysis aids to determine the most advantageous degree of transparency by weighing the expenses of disclosure for corporations against the advantages for investors. Another use case is evaluating the effectiveness of marketplaces. Economic analysis aids in assessing the efficiency of markets and identifying instances of market failures. For example, if market exhibit inefficiency as a result of information asymmetry or obstacles to entry, laws may be warranted to rectify these inefficiencies. On the other hand, an excessive amount of regulation might hinder the development of new ideas and the creation of financial resources, resulting in a lack of effectiveness in the market. Furthermore, doing economic research is essential for assessing the influence of securities legislation on the process of capital formation. Tighter restrictions might discourage firms from becoming publicly traded, limiting the number of investment choices. Conversely, lenient restrictions might heighten the likelihood of fraudulent activities and financial losses for investors, therefore eroding market trust. Within the domain of corporate governance, economic analysis aids in comprehending the correlation between ownership structure and the success of a company. Concentrated ownership can enhance managerial oversight, but it can also amplify the likelihood of agency issues. Through the examination of these trade-offs, regulators may develop regulations that promote efficient corporate governance while avoiding the suppression of innovation. Ultimately, economic analysis is crucial for evaluating the expenses and advantages of various regulation methods. Cost-benefit analysis can be used to assess the justification of proposed legislation based on its anticipated advantages. This method guarantees that the regulatory costs are commensurate with the dangers they aim to mitigate. The third is mergers and acquisitions. Economic research is crucial for comprehending and assessing mergers and acquisitions. Through the application of economic concepts, regulators, firms, and investors may evaluate the possible effects of these transactions on different stakeholders such as customers, employees, and shareholders. Antitrust law is a fundamental aspect of economic analysis in the field of mergers and acquisition. Antitrust regulators examine the mergers to assess their possible influence on competition. Economic methodologies such as the identification of market boundaries, study of market share, and assessment of market concentration are utilized to evaluate the potential of a merger to generate or strengthen market dominance. The objective is to deter mergers that might result in elevated pricing, diminishing product quality, or decreased innovation. In addition to addressing antitrust problems, economic analysis is employed to assess the financial ramifications of mergers and acquisitions. Merger valuation models assist in determining the equitable worth of a target firm, taking into account aspects such as the growth of revenue, profitability, and the value of assets. Cost-benefit analysis is used to evaluate the possible advantages and cost reductions that might result from merging two firms. In addition, economic research may assist in identifying possible risks such as difficulties in integrating or declines in the market that may affect the overall success of a merger. Another significant use of economic research in mergers and acquisitions is within the domain of corporate governance. Economists can evaluate the possible agency issues that may occur as a result of a merger by analyzing the motivations of various stakeholders, including shareholders, managers, and creditors. Managers may be incentivized to push mergers in order to enhance their remuneration, regardless of whether it aligns with the shareholders' best interest. Utilizing economic analysis may assist in identification of possible conflicts of interest and the formulation of strategies to alleviate them. Ultimately, economic analysis offers a strong and comprehensive structure for comprehending and assessing the intricacies of mergers and acquisitions. By utilizing economic methodologies and concepts, governments, entrepreneurs, and investors may enhance their decision-making process and minimize any risks linked to these transactions. The next is corporate finance. Economic analysis offers a strong foundation for comprehending and maximizing business financial choices. Corporations may optimize shareholder value by utilizing economic concepts in their financial decision-making processes. Capital structure, trade-off theory. The trade-off theory posits that a company's ideal capital structure involves finding a balance between the advantages of debt financing, such as tax benefits and improved discipline, and the drawbacks such as financial difficulty and agency expenses. Economic analysis aids in quantifying these aspects to ascertain the most favorable debt to equity ratio. Next is pecking order theory. The pecking order theory suggests that companies prioritize internal finance, then turn to debt, and only consider equity as a last option. Economic analysis aids in comprehending the elements that influence this choice and its consequences for the decision about capital structure. Next is dividend policy. Dividend irrelevance theory. The dividend irrelevance argument posits that the policy regarding dividends has no impact on the overall worth of a company. Nevertheless, via economic research, one may find many elements such as investor preference, signaling, and tax consequences that may have an impact on dividend decisions. The second is dividend clientele theory. The dividend clientele theory posits that various groups of investors exhibit distinct preferences for dividend distributions. Economic research assists in identifying these customers and customizing dividend programs accordingly. Next is investment decisions. Net present value. So, net present value is a crucial metric used to assess investment projects and relies on economic research for its calculation. Through the process of discounting future cash flows, companies may assess the profitability of their investments. Real options. Economic analysis aids in the identification and valuation of genuine alternatives that are inherent in investment initiatives, such as the options to extend, abandon, or postpone a project. This offers a more extensive perspective on investing prospects. Then is risk management. Under that, capital asset pricing models. Now, the capital asset pricing model is an economic tool used to evaluate the systematic risk of a company and calculate its cost of equity. This knowledge is vital for making well-informed decisions on risk management. Then is option pricing theory. Option pricing theory is the application of economic research, specifically option pricing models, to accurately determine the value of financial derivatives and efficiently mitigate risk. For example, options can be used as a strategy to protect against unfavorable changes in prices. After corporate finance, let's talk about corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility has transitioned from being a secondary consideration to being a crucial priority for several firms. CSR projects may be effectively analyzed using economic analysis, which offers useful insights into their ramifications. Historically, companies have focused on the objective of maximizing the wealth of their shareholders. Nevertheless, the notion of business social responsibility brought about a more comprehensive viewpoint, taking into account the influence of business activities on both society and the environment. An economic study of corporate social responsibility aims to examine the correlation between social and environmental factors and a company's financial success. An important aspect of economic analysis in corporate social responsibility is the study of externalities. Externalities refer to expenses or advantages that are incurred by individuals or groups that are not directly participating in a particular transaction. Corporate social responsibility initiatives can assist in internalizing certain external factors such as pollution or labor exploitation by tackling the adverse effects caused by a company's actions. Internalizing externalities can enhance resource allocation efficiency and mitigate market failures from an economic perspective. Moreover, economic analysis may assist in evaluating the possible advantages in terms of reputation and finances that CSR projects might provide. An exemplary corporate social responsibility track record has the potential to bolster a company's brand reputation, allure ecologically and socially aware consumers, and raise staff morale. These elements can enhance a company's financial success by bolstering income, minimizing expenses, and enticing investors. Nevertheless, economic research also emphasizes possible trade-offs. CSR initiatives frequently incur supplementary expenses such as outlays on sustainable methodologies or community advancement schemes. Let's talk about the challenges and opportunities. So the Indian corporate law encounters the task of reconciling the interests of shareholders with those of other stakeholders like employees, creditors, and the society. This is done through various methods, the first one being implementing corporate governance. The successful execution of corporate governance standards continues to be difficult owing to issues such as inadequate enforcement mechanisms and a lack of shareholder engagement. Establishing a robust capital market. India's capital market is now in the process of maturing, and it is crucial to cultivate a well-developed and highly liquid market to facilitate effective corporate funding. Third being tackling insider trading and fraud. It is essential to address insider trading and fraudulent behaviors in order to safeguard investors and maintain the integrity of the market. So to conclude, the economic theory of corporate law offers a significant foundation for analyzing and improving Indian corporate law. Policymakers may enhance efficiency, safeguard investors' interest, and foster general economic growth by comprehending the economic consequences of various legal regulations. With this, we come to the end of our today's lecture. Thank you very much.